Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Who wants to do the roll?
I'll do it.
Okay,
Mike Davidson,
here?
Tom DeWitt,
Here.
Steve Davis.
Here.
Preston Elkins.
Here.
Kevin Ford.
Okay, we got a quorum. Thank everybody for coming today. Chris, do we have anybody attending on Zoom? Okay. The minutes of October 15th, 2024 meeting and the agenda of today's meeting have been published. I need a motion to accept the minutes and adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes of 10/25/24 have been approved and the agenda of 11/5 has been accepted by unanimous consent. We'll be discussing items specifically on the agenda with a possibility of 3 exceptions. Our meeting will conclude with the members, staff, and the public having the opportunity to comment. As a point of order, please indicate you wish to talk and you will be given the floor. And please respect that while somebody has the floor, let them speak without interruption. First item up is update on the water department office remodel. I wanted to get an update on where we are regarding the progress on the water department remodel. We had secured a bid from one contractor in June. That included 3 offices, some bathroom remodel to create separate restrooms for men and women, and to include a shower and the installation of a washer and dryer hookup.
So we got the quotes that we needed. We went out for 3 quotes. 2 of them didn't get back to us. So we went with Mario for the construction on it. I got with him. He's there about a month, maybe less than a month out on starting that project.
Okay.
So we should see some progress here soon.
Okay.
Next month or 2.
That's great news. I think it's something that's important.
Is that something that fell under small purchases, or what was the total quote on that?
It was right under 60.
Okay.
So we had to go off the 3 quotes, and then it was right under RFP.
Okay, cool.
60 grand.
I have a copy of the quote if you need to look at it.
No, it's okay.
Secondarily, is there any other comments on this remodel? Secondarily, I know a lot of people are asking about the dumpster ETA.
So, and I don't know. Maybe I haven't said it right, but we have not received the money yet.
Okay.
So, but I did get with my contact at the DOT yesterday. So they sent the disbursement notice on the 16th of October. And then because it was over the threshold and nobody talks to each other, it did not get approved. So it is being allocated and should be available, should be hitting our accounts Wednesday evening or Thursday morning. And then we'll get it ordered.
Okay.
And that's enough to get 750. Is that what you'd said, Steve?
950.
Out of like 1,200? Is that what I remember? Cool.
$599,758.
And how long will those take to come in?
At 8 to 12 weeks, we should have them all.
All of them? Okay, cool.
And are those 3 cubic yard or 4 cubic yard?
We're getting both.
Okay.
The 4 will go to the businesses and the 3 go to residential.
Okay. And is there a scheduled scheme to distribute those, or do people have to call in and say has a hole in it, or?
No, we're gonna pick an area and start putting them up.
Okay, just. Do you think that's gonna cover the whole town? Okay,
But that's all they will give us.
interesting, after she sat there and said she was gonna get everybody a dumpster. Okay,
They cut us off at 600,000, so that's all. we get.
okay,
It may be worthwhile if we do every, you know, 3 out of 4 in a neighborhood so that that they're at least all over the city, so people can't say, well, you just chose this neighborhood and you just chose this neighborhood.
We're not just gonna pick one section, everybody.
Okay, cool. That will avoid catastrophe.
Okay. Any other trash talking? Yeah. This next item I wanted to talk about is regarding the Lime Street tank refurbishment. And to me, this is one of the most confusing things I've ever tried to discuss. And I thought maybe we could get together here and take on a everyday lingo discussion. I originally spoke to Sarah about Lime Street, and I think her words were, we are going to get, or we hope to get, I don't know which, $500,000 to refurbish Lime Street tank. And further, that part of that conversation was, this was a necessary step to integrate into the Ute Pipeline project. And I was sitting at a council meeting a few weeks back, and I heard that this was a phased project and that the cost was much greater than 500,000. I know that this caught Thomas off guard, caught me off guard, and possibly others. And we talked a little bit about that. But then at the last council meeting, it was discussed that 500,000 was for the planning and design phase of the actual project that would wind up costing millions. And again, I was caught by surprise. This time, I think Councilor Merrick, Councilor Rackler, I'm not sure about Mr. Elkins, but I don't mean to speak for him, but I think it surprised everybody in that regard. So obviously, we have some kind of a communication error. My concern was, we're sitting on Public Works and some are sitting on City Council, and we're not understanding that. So I'm wondering, how can the public understand it if we can't understand it? I think what I tried to do a long time ago, even with Sarah, and all along the way, is essentially say, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're doing it. This is when it'll start. This is when it'll finish. And this is what it'll cost. If we can answer those things simply, I think it would go a long way in trust and understanding. And I think it should be clear that just getting the money and then deciding how to spend it, I don't think that's a strategy, or I don't think it's a good strategy. So with that, I noticed a printout today that looks pretty comprehensive.
So this is the proposal from Stan Tech. If you notice, it's from October 9th of 2023. So that's how long ago this was started, and that's so with water trust board funds, you have to have a cost estimate to get that money. It's a year to year and a half process just to get water trust board funds. If you look, so it'll give you all of the project phases, and this is just for planning and design, bid administration, and construction, like administration and oversight. This is not for construction itself. But if you look at where we're at task 4. So on this, basically the second to last page, you'll see the estimated fees. And preliminary design is $447,204.
So we've already completed tasks 1 through 3.
Yes. Tasks 1 through 3 are done, and then if you look at, they assume that the construction is going to be 12 months, and that's in project assumptions and exclusions. But this is the full design, preliminary design and bid administration for Stantec who's taking care of this project goes. This is not for construction. That's gonna be a separate bid and a separate ask in the water trust board.
Okay.
And what are we looking at ballpark on that separate bid? We haven't,
Construction,
the construction portion,
just construction alone.
yeah.
I don't know if we can say that until we get the actual preliminary design.
So they're still working on a few bits and pieces of the full PER, if you will. They contacted Ashley and said that they should have that to us by middle of November, end of November. So we'll see something then. They've kind of changed the aspect of the preliminary engineering report because there were so many new faces that kind of hit the scene as of late, because when they first went with this thing, there was a bunch of different people that was in charge of this. So they kind of wanted to get the spin on city manager, my spot, and a few others that are here now. To see,
Our different faces.
yes, to see kind of where we want to go with it. We wanted to keep the same scope of work. We wanted to keep this same style of I guess verbiage that's in here. So they're working towards that, and I think that's what it's gonna show on this next one in November. So until we can get that one, I wouldn't say we give any numbers out.
Oh, I think that there was a number dropped in Public Works a few meetings ago, back when the time that Mike was talking about. And
Yeah, I think it was included in the rate design that Waterworth had picked up. I think the Lime Street tank was included in there.
You remember the numbers?
I want to say it was
I
just for
remember
Lime
four
Street?
point three, but then I also reached out, and there might have been a 7 million as well. Would that be a new tank?
I think
7 million would
yeah.
be.
I think that's just relining it.
Well, I was wondering what the cost difference would be between refurbishing and putting a new tank in.
Be clear, we're talking about the underground tank at Lime Street, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
A tank that already exists,
Correct.
and they're saying it's gonna take $750,000 to design the tank that's already there. Right?
To design the stripping of paint and painting it.
So
They're gonna rehabilitate the booster and chlorination system that's there. They're gonna bring everything up to code for electrical and SCADA.
yeah, on the first page, if you look at it, it says rehabilitation, improvements to the booster pump building, security, new diesel power generator. Rehabilitation include recoating of the interior and exterior, replacing internal plumbing, check valves, sluice valves, and level sensor to the tank. The existing master meter, which has exceeded its useful life, will be replaced. Roof will be replaced. Intake and discharge plumbing within the building, electrical and SCADA systems will be replaced and brought up to current code. The emergency power generator will be installed. Weather protected shelter, chain link fence, floodlights, security cameras. Skid with 4 variable speed booster pumps will replace the existing pumps. If you look at that from the project understanding, that's what they're talking about, and it's not a small amount of stuff.
I was just curious what the difference would be between refurbishing and new, as opposed to, if we have to revisit refurbishing again in 5 to 10 years, are we throwing good money after bad, or?
Not sure when that tank was built. Anybody know?
It was 67.
So it's been 60 years. So I think that probably 20 years would probably be, you probably want to look at it, it'd probably be a lot cheaper.
Well, I understand that the work they've got laid out to do, just the way it's listed here, test 1.5 back in there on estimated feet. That's listed with preliminary design, final design, and it's $750,000. Is that including doing the work, or is that just
No.
designing?
That's just design and planning.
So we're spending $750,000 to design the tank that's already in there. That's, I understand the scope of work you're telling me what to do, it's just the design phase that seems like a lot to justify. Just the design.
don't understand.
You know, and I agree with you, Steve, and I'm looking just at task 8, construction observation. One observer is going to attend 2 meetings and an inspection. And then we will have one construction observation, 40 hours a week for the duration of 11 months. And that's $365,000 just for one guy to come observe.
Add stage 1 to it.
Say that again.
Add task 1 to that.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
but this is just somebody
I
to
understand that, but
come observe.
That's $500,000 just to manage the job. I don't know, I'm just having a hard time with the numbers.
And this is a state contract, this company that is on state contract also.
Meaning that you can't use anybody else? What does that mean?
I mean, we can use, we just have to go out for bids if we'd have to go out for an RFP and all that stuff.
It would be a complete redo.
Well, I guess my concern on this, and I'm new to this starting in January, but do you know, Mr. Merrick, this is from October. Did we know that this planning stage was going to be 1.5 million? And then at the last meeting, when we approved $500,000, that was just one task of these 7? Is this something that has been brought to council that it was going to be the 1.57, or do we just kind of keep getting surprised of, well, now we've got 500,000, now we have 300,000, now we have,
So I know that when we went out for water trust board money, and this is prior to Ashley and Chris and me, that they went out for design, construction and everything. And the water trust board said, no, we can only get design money. So we are phasing what we're asking for in grants because of that fact.
Okay.
So that's why you're basically getting it in pieces, because we can only do it in pieces. So we don't know the final numbers for anything except for, and I don't want to make assumptions on where the rest of the money is probably going to be built into the construction budget
Mhm.
and the construction ask that we get from the water trust board.
So this total project, the money has not already been allotted for it.
No, the water trust board did not let us do design and construction at the same time.
There's Chris, I can't remember the exact numbers, but another thing that, and now I can't even be sure, but I think was approved was money to build another new tank out in the well field possibly.
That is a whole different set of water trust board money.
Yes, but how much was that brand new tank?
I want to say it was 7 million.
Okay.
7 million. And I was
That's
trying
what
to
you
find
sent me.
it on here because Wilson and Company, they did some research in there because they're kind of working in just the distribution side, but they've watched some of the meetings that we've had, and they've noticed that was something that kept being brought up. So they went out and they looked for the price. I have it somewhere. Someone find it.
You sent it to me, or you sent me a text quoting that amount.
And it was that, okay.
It was 7 million. That was and that was 7 million. That includes everything, tank, groundwork, installation,
Yes.
so on and so forth.
So I think that's part of my question is the scope of this underground tank so different that we're just talking apples and oranges when we're talking about, the reason I'm saying that, it sounds like it's costing as much to refurb Lime Street as it is to build the other tanks.
We don't know that end number yet,
Okay.
obviously.
But we would be
There's a lot of pieces in the Lime Street tank now that are obviously with the project coming down into.
right.
And that's pretty much ongoing. We're kind of almost locked into having to do the rehabilitation of Lime Street.
Oh, yeah,
The way- the
I
way
agree.
that the project is scheduled at.
I agree. I think it's just taking a lot of us by surprise, getting these little bits and pieces. And I also know that everybody here is new. I mean, everybody here stepped into this stuff. So,
And I think it's just the way the water trust board funding goes. Starting in July, and then it rolls through and you don't get the money for a whole year and the process is just long. So when you look at, it started October 9th of 2023. That's, that's over a year ago. And now we're just now getting to it. So, and the fact that we don't know final numbers from anything because we can't go for those without a preliminary design, without a design, we can't know construction costs.
Yeah.
And then without the money for the water trust board for the design, we can't do the design, obviously. And then we go from there. So that's why we're doing pieces because we don't know those numbers.
Gotcha.
Is this 100% funded from the water trust board, or is there a match that we have to come up with?
The 500,000 was a $450,000 grant and a $50,000.
I'm talking about the total scope of the project.
It's still gonna be a grant.
Do we know the percentage?
It's the same percentage. It's a 0.01. You can also, if I'm not mistaken, from my conference last week. You can ask for a match waiver, but I don't think. We qualify for that.
I think the 0.01 that you're talking about, I think the 50,000 into 500,000, it's a 10% match. So we're still gonna have to.
10% match. The 0.01 is the interest or the administration fee.
Okay, so we will still have to come up personally as the city of Portales, $160,000 just for the design of this. And then another 5 million. So that's what, 500,000 that we'll have to come up with internally. So
So-
750,000 will be have to paid back,
So.
just a ballpark.
So 106,000 has already been used previously on the PER.
Well, that's a small portion of the $7 million project.
And that was just for the PER.
You'll have to help me on that. What is a PER?
Preliminary engineering report.
Thank you.
And so, wow, and water trust board funds are pretty specific. And you have to, you have a drawdown schedule. Those monies have to be expended within 2 years. And if you're not expending them at the rate that you're supposed to expend them, you will not get further water trust board money.
And where are we at in that process?
We still haven't gotten the money that we signed for, the $450,000 has not been actually, we don't have it yet.
We haven't received it, so our timeline hadn't started yet.
So in the infrastructure capital improvement plan, 2025 to 2029, there is 5 phases. Chris, are we talking about the same? Is Lime Street in those 5 phases, or is that something totally different? Are we in fact in phase 3?
According to this,
According to this. This is a infrastructure capital improvement plan. 2025, 2029. It has 5 phases. And it has breakdown by the year. And I had thought Lime Street Tank was in phase 3. Would it help you to look at this paper I have? It may not even be related to.
I think that's what the Wilson and Company came up with. So I would assume that.
Show that. Big one, okay, help make some more sense. I was looking at that total of 1.6 million that we can spend just to run the project. Basically.
Mhm.
And think, could we not renovate that whole tank with that much?
I'm with
I
you
think a
100%.
private
I mean,
company
we're
can.
looking at 3/4 of a million to design something that's already there.
This is the standard that we have to go through on government, that shows you exactly why everybody is so upset with the waste
Yeah.
that has happened.
And listen, I don't mean to throw y'all a curveball. That was something given to me by a previous city manager when I asked some of these same questions before. And it was my understanding that we were in phase 3, which has a $16 million price tag. So,
I don't think we're in phase 3.
okay. I also don't mean to blindside you. So if you need to look into that or,
I've not seen this yet, so
okay.
I'll have to look at that, but the way that looks is we're in phase 2.
If you want to take that, ultimately I want to keep a copy of that. If you could scan me a PDF, but you can have that for reference.
Well, one, the project location is corner of I and 18th. That's where the existing elevated storage tank is over at Rotary Park. And then it says total project cost 44 million.
Wow.
250,000
Yeah. But that one was deemed as,
right, it's not in search.
yeah, and it was
Okay.
gonna cost more to rehab that than it would be to build a brand new.
Right.
So that's why we're looking out at the industrial park for storage, and then we had talked about
The well field.
or the well field.
Yeah, I think the well field's a great idea. Well, I think, I'm hoping you can see why we're getting a little confused on that, because my question that got me that paperwork was 100% about the Lime Street tank. And I was handed that set of printouts. So at any rate, I don't want to,
Somewhere in that conversation, I think there was a mention of a tank being put out by the software complex.
yeah, out in the
Yes,
industrial
I think
park.
it's in that
Yep.
paperwork right there.
Okay.
I'm hoping that these papers provide a little bit.
They do. I can already tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't.
The construction costs, we do not know,
Okay.
and we would be lying if we told you a number.
I mean, it fills in the blanks. It doesn't remove the concern, but it fills in the blanks, on a lot of it.
I would think that we would have estimates from what Wilson and Company did and the Waterworth presentation. They had capital improvements and Lime Street was in there. So they wouldn't have just pulled that number out of a hat. So we have to have something of an
It's
estimate.
probably somewhere again. We've kind of inherited this project.
So, no, yeah, we know that. You didn't start this thing.
This is where we're at right now, and we can. I mean. We have the money, and I don't think it's. I don't know if we can exactly go back out to the bid.
No, I'm with you. I think what Mr. Davidson is wanting, and I want personally, hey, list out Lime Street tank. Total expected, once you just get a ballpark estimate, it's gonna be $15 million, $20 million, whatever it may be. And show, hey, where are we at in the process? We're waiting on this. We've expended this.
And once we get the preliminary design, that'll be a lot easier.
Right.
To be able to fish out.
So according to this, we would be on phase 3 because phase 1 and phase 2 was Johnson Hill West Tank and Johnson Hill East Tank, and that's been completed.
Yeah.
Phase 3 is final design and construction of Lime Street Underground, which they were not there. So I guess that's a phase in itself, and then it's phased out within that phase.
Okay. And that is showing $16 million in that phase 3.
The phase 3.
I don't know we don't know where they got that number.
Gotcha. I mean,
So
okay.
On the estimated fees back here.
Mhm.
These numbers. Under the project understanding, this is. Is this all of this? Or is this just Lime Street?
That's
That's
just
just
Lime
Lime
Street.
Street.
Okay,
At the top, it says Lime Street and Industrial.
I'm the project understanding and I'm not understanding.
And that doesn't include gross receipts stuff.
No. I'm the only one who.
So I know this,
I'm one
I know
of the
these-
older
this
people
stuff
trying
is
to make them justify
tied up, the
time
money
spent
is
to
already
design
dedicated or what have
something
you.
that's already in place.
What happens if we find out that
I don't think they can justify it,
the refurb
but I don't know what to do
It's-
about it. It just-
500,000 more than a brand new tank? I mean, if we don't know numbers now, what do we do when we get to that point? When we find out that a brand new tank is equivalent to or quite possibly less than this total refurbishing, since we don't know numbers.
We say we're already locked in, we're already too far down the process.
We're only on stage 3.
Well, I would say that with the youth pipeline project in the phase that it's in right now, we're kind of locked in. Because
You mean
they're starting the box here soon. We have a meeting.
I have the 6th. I have a meeting.
Yeah,
with,
I mean, there's a meeting tomorrow with the construction company, so they're gonna start the box. And then. So I mean, they would have, because we would have to find out, obviously, another place. To put that. And then they would have to redo. That piece, but
I didn't know.
there's a lot of different different pieces of the puzzle. that are-
So do you know what the estimated timeline is for having this rehabbed?
It says in here 24 months. So
So 2026?
Well,
Billy was saying.
It says the duration of the
25 months. It says
Yeah.
approximately.
The whole project is 25 months, the duration of the construction is assumed to be 12.
Yeah, I saw 11 or 12.
Well, isn't the like 2031? Timeline,
For full project, I'm not sure when the phase that they're in right now is supposed to be complete.
This phase tying in our tank.
has to be the
is in
first part.
construction Right now,
It's,
they're
yeah,
letting the pipeline come in here. So
They've already did all their bores underneath state highways and stuff where they need to be, and then they will.
they need the tank drained. So that they can make the connection. Into the, to this roof of it.
and we gave them a November to April timeline for that tank to be drained, because that's our less water usage time. So sometime between now and April, they will be tying into that tank.
do we even really use Lime Street just to flush it though, correct?
Yes, well, we use it, and then our peak demands will use it for emergency to just help out with the Johnson
Demand.
Hill, yeah, and then if for other circumstances that we have.
Emergencies.
Yeah,
Don't forget that the original design took the pipeline to our.
Johnson.
tanks,
Yep.
And it was changed.
And it cost. Well, it cost Clovis almost $1 million for Portales to change its mind, so.
Again, nothing y'all did.
There's a lot of different pieces that came in.
And I just want to make that clear, and anything that we're saying here, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it and. Understand how this process came to be, but you guys weren't really involved in any of that, so don't take it that we're jumping on you about it.
No.
It's just that we're just trying to understand the whole process and then, that someone changed the way that the pipeline from you comes in. And what their thought process was as to why we were doing it.
I can speak on that a little bit. I have a little bit of information on that.
Let's hear it.
So the reason why they changed, I didn't realize they changed. I thought it was meant to go to Lime Street anyways, but that's where we can isolate. So from our understanding from the very beginning is they're going to use chloramination for treatment, and we would be able to reject if we needed to, and it wouldn't go into the system, as opposed to being at Johnson Hill. It's got to go into the system. We don't have no isolation point. We can't reject that water. So if we got a bad batch of water for whatever it was or contamination, we would be able to isolate that from the system and just inject it or reject it into the, or just waste it basically.
Yeah.
So we would have that, we'd have that option, but that's, from my understanding, that was the reason why we went to Lime Street.
And
That
like you said, it
explanation
was,
makes way more sense
Yeah.
than what I was told, because I was told that it was brought in there because we were looking at re-injecting that water when we had a surplus into some well fields, and that it was more feasible for this tank.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So, which would then re-inject it back into the north.
Right.
Sand good back.
right.
Wells.
that was talks for that, but the main purpose was. Is if something happened at the plant or something and they sent water out, we could isolate it and not affect. Our main water source from Johnson. But it also gave us a point, because we were at first told we were going to have to switch to chlorination instead of chlorination like we are now. So that gave us a point to mix the two waters together,
To blend them, yeah.
to blend them. That way it wouldn't be, not everything's happening at Johnson Hill at that point, so.
Makes a lot more
And then the
sense.
studies of the water at U, but PFAS coming
Right.
up and some other things caused us to have to change the way that the water is gonna be filtered. For the pipeline project.
Which, yeah, now with the new way, we won't have an issue with having to blend or nothing like that, so.
A
Anything,
lot of things were put into the process without knowing the total in design and how it was all gonna work. So they probably had those modifications on everything. But it still doesn't change the fact that we're spending a full of money. That's a good design, which someone would be considered.
And I don't know what their thought process was when they went up with Stantec. It could have been that they were on state contract and we were trying to get it done quicker. So that we could integrate it into the U reservoir or the U pipeline project. Or I don't know.
Got a final question on. This was a year ago. Does these prices still stand?
I think being the fact that it ties in with all water trust board money funds and all that stuff, and the fact that this is a PER, I think that until everything's said and done and they're still working on a second PER, that it should all be phased out the way it is. I don't think anything's gonna change. From the conversations that we've had with them, they haven't mentioned anything as far as the number changing.
I guess if we're on task 3, then we're already committed. We're
Right.
in it, so I guess it would be.
And we will find out.
But-
More on why, but at this point, like, we just kind of hit the ground running with this project, so.
from,
And this was approved through council?
For us.
I know, but he had a sharp
Years.
eye on it before then too, though.
so who spearheads this for the city? Are you the point man, Chris, on this project? Or Mr. Moyer? If somebody has to butt heads with these people,
I think we're all kind of doing it at the same time.
Okay.
I wouldn't pinpoint anybody.
okay,
Ashley's been in talks with them more
okay,
than anybody else has, just because she's getting the funding and she's, Lisa Campbell, I think, is the point of contact for Stantec.
okay,
She's the one that we've kind of been dealing with this project, and then, so I mean, I would venture to say it's me and Ashley,
okay.
and then, kind of just hitting it from each.
Okay. Point being, it was John DeShay. So
Right.
are y'all kind of taking his place in this project?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
This is, we'd have to go back to the shade, which that's kind of hard since he's not here. to finish.
Yeah.
But I've been on this committee for a number of years. I've never seen these figures broken down like this to show us what the design part of this project cost. We've been able to object to that portion of it in the beginning.
I am just noticing something, and I could have just blacked out for the last 30 minutes, and we've already covered this. But on the reference, it does say Lime Street Tank Rehab and Industrial Park Elevated Tank Projects. So that could be doubled up. I don't know that I've missed that, but I do see that on the first page. So there is a chance that these numbers are inflated.
I can tell you that when the people walked out the door, or the people that walked out the door when they did, and this came about, previous city manager, we met with them. And I know all three tanks were in question. And the tanks that were in question was, of course, the one at Rotary Park, Industrial Park, and Lime Street. They were all within the scope of work.
Okay.
And then we met with them, they kind of changed direction, we did, and we wanted to keep the elevated storage tank in the phase because I want to say Lisa with Stantec kind of told us, you know, that'd be in your best interest. If not, you may lose the funding out on getting a second tank if it came about. And this is just a conversation I can remember having when we first started this back around this time. So I think with us just having another conversation with Lisa and just kind of figuring out, and which we're in contact with her now. And like I said, we're waiting on them to give us another PER and hoping that explains it a little bit better. And it might still have the industrial park tank in there. Get this, the one that they're working on now, might not get it as well. I just have to get with her and see why, and see if they can.
I would
Phase
see
it
if
out.
there's an updated scope of work
Absolutely.
that removes the industrial park. If we're not really going to do it, are they still billing us as if we are for the planning? Because that's what this shows.
Yeah.
And so if we just completed, what was that, stage 4 or task 4?
Three.
No,
We're on
the
4.
500.
We're on,
$500.
we're on task.
We're on test 4.
Okay, but
Completed
at
4.
our last meeting, we just approved 500,000 for task 4. Did that 500 include a design of the industrial park? Might be worth looking into to see if we just way overpaid. Just based on what we've got here.
Well, to be clear, industrial park was, the concept was moved to the well field. So we still need design, we still need that tank. It's just that it wasn't going to be an elevated tank in industrial park, potentially. It was going to be a ground level tank, potentially in the well field instead, because it would serve two purposes, a booster tank and a storage tank.
Yeah, but I bet a ground level tank versus an elevated tank are way different on cost.
I'm sure.
I bet the one by Eastern is gonna be triple one just sitting on the dirt.
Yep.
Just a thought. So I bet the design could be way more expensive for something like that.
And these numbers might change when we get the updated PER. If they change the scope of work on.
I would just make certain that we know what we are designing. And see if we can get an updated copy of the scope of work. That'd be fantastic.
You're supposed to get that mid-November, so mid to end November.
Yeah, I realize we don't have a public works director, but I definitely think that I would feel a lot more comfortable with Chris Mendoza. You're right in the big middle of that. And
Unfortunately, right?
yeah, that may not be something you want, but man, we need you in that so that, especially because Lime Street, we really don't get do-overs on that. Our back is to the wall on our ETA timeframe on that. So we can't afford any mistakes or misdesigns from this point forward, especially on any of them, but especially on Lime Street. And so, man, if you could take it upon yourself to watch out for us.
Plus the fact that, if this was set up and funded with both projects in mind, And then we're receiving funds from the state for other projects. We remove one, does that jeopardize the funding that we receive from the state?
Hmm.
So
We have to go back and talk to
it
the water
either
trust
have to
board.
be redirected in a different direction and left in there, or, you know.
Okay. Any other discussion about Lime Street tank? Okay. We had next topic, we had an EPCOR water assessment. EPCOR was pretty blunt. Pretty courteous. I don't think they wanted to insult Portales, but they did see quite a few problems. I know they talked to the employees. I don't know if I wasn't privy on that, so I don't know if it was for the purpose of employment or for internal water workings. But I'm wondering, what have we done since those assessments to correct some of the observations that they have made?
Okay, so first off, safety is the first thing that we're starting with. Signs, locks, stickers, all the things that they're all going up this week. We have them, and we're putting them up. Electrical fixes, we're getting quotes for that work, and then fencing for the areas that need fencing, we're also getting quotes for that. As far as the other stuff, for fixes, we're trying to get a comprehensive list from EPCOR, of which we are not positive we're gonna get. So we're gonna have to go out to each well site and area and make our own list. So I think we need to tackle the well field first. There's a lot of things that I think we can take care of in-house. Concrete pads, things that were falling apart, we can take care of. I think some stanchions we can do with some metalwork. We have capabilities within the city to be able to do that between public infrastructure and water. We obviously don't want to overtest people that we already have, right, with even more work, but kind of a phased approach. And we'll do a couple things here and there on this week, next week, and such. So, and then we need to look at what we need to hire out for. And that would be a whole nother process. Again, trying to find grant money, trying to find other money, seeing what we can afford. So once we have a comprehensive, once we have a full list, we need to develop a 2 to 3 year plan. And that's just to tackle the stuff that's, glaring. But again, our immediate needs are safety. That's #1 priority. And then we're doing maintenance, so we're developing a comprehensive monthly, quarterly, and yearly maintenance plan. And so we have our new work order system. We received it. We're waiting on the iPads right now, but being able to put in all the work orders for every well, every site, whatever, and then you can systematically go through. It'll have pictures of what's wrong. We'll be able to see what we need to replace, and then when we do fix it, what we replaced, how long it took us, what type of money it cost us. So that work order system will help us keep track of everything.
And that will be archived.
And it will be archived.
Okay.
And so, and then also in the work order system, you'll have your monthly, quarterly, and yearly inspections. They'll be placed in there. So for whether you're doing well sites, or you're doing pump stations, everything like that. Also, at the conference I just went to, they have a company called Sustainability Partners, and they do infrastructure as a service. So one of the things that I talked with them about, and the co-op, water co-op did this, it's basically they provide all the capital with no upfront cost to the city. We pay a monthly usage fee. So the thing to start is to replace meters. Meters tell you how much water everybody's using, and you need it accurate. So they will replace meters at every household. well field, everything that we need a meter at to measure how much water is being produced. We'll have a meter. So I'm in talks with them. Right now to figure out what that looks like for the city. And then once we get that going, they will come and make a presentation to council. But that's one of my biggest things right now is to start with water meters. Now they come in, they do all the work. And then 30 days after everything is installed and working, we start our monthly usage fee. I don't know what that cost looks like right now. But the upfront cost, the capital cost to the city is zero. Obviously, the co-op is a good example of it works. Everybody will have a portal, everybody will be able to see their water usage, they will get alerts. When if it detects a leak. It's just overall good for the city. And then we're looking to talk to Site Pro. And get with them on a new SCADA system. To help us monitor everything at the well field. And make sure that I guess just everything's running right. That we know where our usage is going. So that's what we have right now. I'm sure it'll change as we go along and as we find things.
I've got all the questions, so, but I want to go back to the EPCOR thing before I forget. One of the big things that they had mentioned is and it came across to me, maybe y'all can step in if you thought otherwise, but it seemed like the wastewater treatment plant is almost non-operational. It doesn't seem like we're treating hardly any of the water that's coming in. Is that accurate?
No. Our reuse system, yes, it's out of compliance, but as far as the operations that go out at the wastewater treatment plant, it's the way it's supposed to be treated. It comes in, there's a few things that needs to happen for it to be more efficient. Like the grit removal, maybe a couple added bar screens in some places. But other than that, our biggest challenge out there is algae, and it's because our ponds are outside the, of course, temperature and season, affect that. And then, the fact that when it first came online, those ponds just sat there. They weren't going nowhere. So algae was created. We're working towards getting that fixed, getting that issue fixed. We're trying to get into compliance so that way we can start using that again. Once we do, we can use some out at the plant, of course, the ponds or the softball complex, the cemetery. We can start using that water and getting it going. The biggest thing is if it's not moving, it just creates algae growth.
Okay.
We've looked at all kinds of different portions of that, but it is.
Okay, well, another reason I ask is when I think we went on the tour together, Mr. Poe said that 3 million gallons a day comes in and only 1 million can get treated in a day. That's what he told us. So
I think it's 1 million that comes in.
1 million that comes in. 3 million gallons a day gets dumped into those ponds because it's not being used, is what he told us. To keep it from overflowing in the other. Hey, let me back up.
that math doesn't math. I don't understand how that works.
1 million gallons a day, a little over 1 million gallons a day came in, a raw sewage is what you would say. And at that time, they were dumping 3 million gallons a day into the swamp to keep the retention pond from overfilling, is what he said.
We're not able to use as much as we're making.
Okay, so all the water going to, is it Road 8 at that playa? That's all been treated. It's just we can't get it into the reuse system.
Correct.
And then we were told that it was engineered wrong by Mr. Poe, and so that's the reason that the reuse system isn't working and operational. But at the EPCOR workshop, that's counter to what we were told. Were y'all told the same thing at the employee meeting? He said that they have the same system. I think even he said it's a smaller system, and they service 108,000 units, which is 108,000 homes, and I think we have like 6,000. So he said it's designed properly, It's more of an operation issue as to why it's not functioning.
It is an operation issue because we don't have the staff to operate that plant. The staff that's required to operate that plant, we have to have level fours. To operate at one, we only have one level four. And the amount of, like, it's like getting a brand new car. You gotta take it to the mechanic shop or a dealership because you can't take it to just a mom and pop mechanic shop because it's got all these brand new parts to it. So maintenance, whenever maintenance comes into play, TLC is huge on that plant. We just don't have the operators to do that type of maintenance.
Is that not
It
something
is.
we can contract out and say, hey, because he said, well, a chain got sucked into one motor or one pump, and so that one's down, which forced the other one to work harder. And he said it just kind of compounds itself with that. So is that something we can bring in contractors that are actual level 4 operators to fix that, or are we just stuck with a non-functioning wastewater treatment plant?
For that motor that has a chain sucked into it. The reason we can't pull it is because the chain broke that you used to pull it out, so we'd have to lower someone down into the wet well. To rehook a new chain to it, so.
I mean, I understand that, but
To
is that
answer your
not something
question-
that we can do? I mean, yeah, it's gonna suck, but
Yeah, that's your question. I mean, we could do it in-house or we could phase it out or contract it out. Either way. But either way, it could get done. I don't know where we're at on it. No,
I think the big thing is even if we brought somebody in to fix all the things. What we're talking about is we still don't have people to operate it efficiently. So the problems will pop up again, I would assume.
well, I think he said that at theirs, they have 4 people operate that system, and it's the same system, and they still have the open air tanks. And they use 4 people. I think the issue is trying to fix everything that's broken. It's a bunch of small things that have compiled, and now we have this big problem. I would assume if you fix the big problem, then you just maintain as you go. And if something breaks that is a chain that's stuck in a motor, you just got to figure out how to get it out.
What I'm hearing.
And not leave it.
is Also on the level of the operators, not just the number of operators. Am I correct?
yeah.
But
So
they're
it
level.
plays a huge role in it. And then from the conversation we had with Epcor as well, they also mentioned that they have their own maintenance crew. So they have their operators that are operating there that do what they're supposed to do. And then if it's too big of a challenge, just like this chain being stuck in there, their maintenance crew comes in and they do the repair, pull the pump, all that stuff. So it's
Right. That's what I'm asking. Can we contract a maintenance crew to come in and fix what needs to be fixed? And then, yeah, we've got one level 4 operator, and maybe I don't understand. To me, I think about it from the electric side of it. We've got a journeyman lineman, an apprentice, a groundsman, or 2 groundsmen. Well, the journeyman is the one who's has the knowledge of what needs to be done. The rest of the guys, can you do the work, or is it since you don't have a level 4, you're not even able to touch it since you're not there? I
Right.
don't know how that works.
I mean, operational, in that standpoint, you can do it the way you're
Mhm.
talking about, just like working under somebody else's license.
Right.
It's, so when I say we need level 4 operators, it's an intellectual plant, so it's got moving parts in it every day that people have to think about.
Mhm.
So if you don't have the knowledge base on it, where Randy can go out there and just look at the plant and say, hey, this is what needs to happen, because we don't ever know what changes are gonna need to be made and stuff like that. So more operators, is, by that, I'm saying, somebody can go out there and just look at that plant, look at these things and be able to just go about their business on fixing whatever it needs to be fixed, as opposed to Randy overseeing the entire thing and trying to explain it, because it's very structural on how they have to maintenance that plant and the things that they have to do. So it would be beneficial for us to get a maintenance crew and contract a maintenance crew to go out there. That's ideal. That'd be awesome to
I think
awesome to get, but
Well, we have a $28 million plant that's just sitting there. I mean, yeah, it apparently is treating some of it, but if we're pushing 2 million gallons to the playa, we're not using the system. And I think the number that Wilson and Company gave us is we're only using 3% or 4% of the actual wastewater. That's a huge burden off of our system, if we can get that fixed. So to me, I love the metering side of it. but we're not, I don't feel that we're to that because we're just wasting so much water. Yeah, I mean, I get you wanting to try and catch revenue, but you're billing us for something. I mean, we have some meters that work. Now, are they calibrated and accurate? That's a different approach, or a different issue. But I mean, you're billing me $200 a month or whatever it is. So
I think that's the biggest thing is. We probably underbill, which would, I mean. More accurately determining what our production is, what is being used. Would increase revenue without having to increase rates in the grand scheme of things. And so. In the order of what I think is a priority, I think water distribution. I understand the wastewater treatment plant is not being used to its fullest extent, but I think water distribution is more of a priority than the wastewater treatment plant is. Even though we're missing out on using 4% of that plant, because we would only use 4% even with the reuse system as it is. We will only use 4% of that water because the way our reuse system is, that's all we can really use. And that's what I think Wilson and Company was talking about. Because we don't have a robust reuse system throughout the city. It only goes to softball fields, cemetery, and
And the soccer fields.
the soccer fields. That's the only three places that our reuse system goes. Sorry, the old soccer field.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I totally agree with you. However, the problem is that we're billing the residents as if we had a complete and functional system.
Correct.
Even according to the law, by signing the contract, we're actually in violation of our loan contract as we speak, because that wastewater treatment plant is not functioning correctly. And I've understood it for quite some time that I think Mr. Lucero at a council meeting one night pointed out that half of the wastewater treatment plant is working as it should. The sewage part is working as it should. The wastewater or the effluent water portion is not working. And so it isn't like we're not getting use out of that plant, but there are so many shortcomings as to what was promised and what's being billed and what's being received. And we find ourselves in a hard situation because nobody that we have on staff caused this situation, but the residents are still paying for it. So that's the question they're asking. What am I getting for my money? And in essence, a lot of people think they're getting shortchanged. So I don't know the solution. I don't know. You got a situation that requires more money and people are already paying for it. So we got our backs to the wall on that one.
And again, it goes back. We've talked about this, the design of the plant. The design of the plant for where we live is probably not the best idea. It probably needed to be inside pools so that you didn't have the algae problem. So, and that's what it comes down to. And the fact that we can only use 4% of that water through our reuse system as it is.
well, and I think that's the issue. I completely disagree on the algae problem. We're so dry. The algae is because it's just stagnant water. It's just not moving anywhere. If it were being reused and through the system, you wouldn't have the algae problem. The issue is we have nowhere for it to go. I think a good option would be the golf course, for example. The golf courses use a pile of water, which they're using drinking water to water a golf course when we have a 11 million gallon pond a half a mile away. And people say, well, you shouldn't be giving that to a private entity, or you shouldn't even sell it at a reduced rate to a private entity. But my thought is it's sucking out of our aquifer. So we should be doing everything we can to limit that. And from what I've heard, the water production side of it is the issue. There's a chance that we don't have water in a couple of years. That's why we've got the Ute pipeline coming. So anything that we can do to limit what's being pulled out of the ground is a benefit. Now I understand, because I'm the accounting and finance manager for a utility. I want to make money. But if we don't have electricity to sell to people, it doesn't matter how great our meters are. If we don't have any electricity to sell, it doesn't matter at that point. So those are my 2 cents on that.
The part of it goes back, and I can't tell you why. I don't know whether the previous council didn't fund it or what, but the $27 million, if I'm not mistaken, included all the lateral lines being run. Somewhere along the way, whether it was because of increased cost or just not financing it, somewhere along the way, those lines did not get built.
Mhm.
So that is impacting that water being able to be used and being set there and stagnate. I
Mhm.
agree with you. Not being used is the biggest obstacle, but they can't send it to the golf course right now. For a couple of reasons, is it can't come into any human contact right now. They can't use it for the fire trucks, can't use it for the cemetery, and they couldn't give it to the golf course. And by the way, the contract reads that you can't give the water away, so that's eliminated right there, donating it or anything. So it would have to be sold. It has to produce money, or it's a violation of the contract that we signed, the loan that we got. So
Well, I will rebuttal that. Brad Jones with the New Mexico Groundwater Department. We spoke with, we'd said, well, it's a permitting issue. He said, no, there's nothing wrong with your permits. So he completely contradicts that. He said you can give it away because it's a community benefit. But also, even if you were to resell it, your permits aren't an issue. So we may reach out to Brad Jones with the groundwater department, and I've got his telephone number. He seemed to think that all of our permits are in line. He said nobody's come to ask if we can. So it might just be lack of trying to get.
I just got through reading the contract that it's actually a loan agreement with the water board, and it clearly states that the water cannot be given away. You have to bill somebody. Doesn't say what you have to bill them, but it does say that they have to be billed. And I think that's because in order to pay them back the loan we got,
Mhm.
you can't give it away. So at any rate,
So the water from the treatment plant is in compliance by the time it hits the pond over by the softball field. Is that correct?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, and then as it sits there, then the algae grows.
Okay.
Has anybody thought any more about these solar balls that go in there? It sounds like a very compared to everything else, very inexpensive. Way, okay, that's relatively.
That's
inexpensive.
small compared to all the other numbers we've been talking
And
about.
we've got a community out there that thinks that the whole system is broke just because of these 2 ponds. That's what everybody's complaining about, is they don't think that system works at all. We have not done enough to let people out there know that the wastewater treatment plant works. It's the end game that is being affected. That the water is sitting around, we're not being able to move the water for whatever reason. But we're also not doing something as simple as these solar balls that we talked about when we were on site last year. Something to help slow down the evaporation, help slow down the algae growth.
We would have to go out, obviously, for more funding. We don't have that money.
Well, we were presented a $40 million upgrade to that wastewater treatment plant. So I would assume that 600 is nothing compared to all that.
And we started, this is something that I've seen with the city for a long time. We always look at an issue and we're never any further than where we started. So we talked about these solar balls earlier in the year, and I agree, we'll have to go out for more funding, but what step are we in that process?
I can tell you, we've had conversations, even when we did the EPCOR, the conditional assessment, that a bunch of their operators went out. They looked at the ponds and we talked about, we talked shop, talked about potential, improvements and stuff like this. They had a concern about using those balls for one reason, that it could attach to the bottom. And honestly, the only thing that it would potentially help us with is just evaporation, but it wouldn't help necessarily with the algae growth.
California and these other states are using them like crazy and say that this is a big reason, not just evaporation, but the algae growth. I mean, this isn't newly sliced bread. This is something that's been going on for many years.
And they also mentioned too that even with the amount of wins that we get here, that we would play trying to catch up with all of those balls being in one corner compared to another corner,
Yeah.
or even flying over the field.
Yeah.
These are just conversations we
I
had
agree.
talking shop, so,
I mean, that would be a concern,
yeah.
is looking to see how much them balls are and.
Now, we
well
are,
round.
like I
Yeah.
said, we are in conversations and we are trying to figure out a way to treat that pond, a way to get that thing in compliance. And it's, I say it's algae, it's NTUs, it's a bunch of stuff that pertains to that permit that we need to get into compliance. So, a little TLC, and I think adjusting the way we treat that pond, will help us in the long run. So
Really need
I
to,
do wanna say, we've been working really hard out there. Our numbers for the NTUs in the BOD fives, which throw us out of compliance right now. We have done the drop and we are close to being back in compliance. So
Awesome.
we're working towards that. We're not quite there yet, but we are close.
Awesome.
So.
So is
I've
that,
talked to some other people about using some type of stuff to try killing the algae that we're gonna hopefully be testing. We've been testing a certain product and hopefully we'll be getting our hands on it this week or next week.
so is that the pond or is that what you're treating that you're getting those numbers
No,
down?
the pond itself.
Okay, so you don't have to empty the whole thing and then start over to do all that. You can actually treat that sitting
We're
water.
trying not to do that. 'Cause that's.
Oh,
gonna
that's
be
another
a
step.
big task.
Oh.
So, but.
it's called dredging would be that, dredging the pond would be technically the next step.
You just empty it, dry it all out, let the algae die and then
You
start
can-
over.
you can dredge without
Bring something
emptying
in
it.
and suck everything off the bottom and. Discard that
Reduce-
old
yeah.
stuff and everything. like
I
that,
actually
but,
used to do that.
We're close to being back in compliance. We're not quite there, but we're working on it and it's going in that direction.
Okay, so here's my next question. Sorry, Mr. Davidson. Or
That's all right. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Davis, did you have something?
Let Steve say something here. He's.
Oh.
You're too quiet.
Maybe. Just a point of curiosity, this algae that we're talking about, how is this algae different than algae that's in our area lakes?
Probably. Not that much different, I would think.
That's exactly my point. That and every stock tank that's in this county. That our stock are drinking out of, that our ranchers drink out of occasionally. This is partially a legislative problem. We need to find out where this problem is and get it fixed. That algae, I think, is a bunch of baloney.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the environmental department. We have.
Yeah, we have.
That-
We have no choice.
that's the reason I said this is a legislative problem, and we have water problems with the legislature and our state level needs to be dealing with, and this is one of them.
All right, and it goes back to the permit that we've got for that reuse plant. It's class 1A, which is basically for farmers to be able to use on their crops if they wanted to. We looked at trying to reclassify and rename that permit, but when we were reading through what it could be, you wouldn't be able to use that 100 foot within any residential area. So that would take out every park that we have it tied into. But I understand what you're saying.
If the rules are wrong, we need to change the rule. Because the rules are not logical. Does that make sense? Water that comes out of Conscious Lake in an irrigation district goes right into those irrigation, in those farms, in and around Tinky here. Without any treatment that I'm aware of. Straight out of that lake. So I think we need to be hitting this on a couple of other levels, other than us having to spend millions and millions of dollars to try to clean up a pond that's just like our stock tanks in the county.
Maybe we could get a waiver or something. Or let
A
it.
waiver or just fix the law. But I mean, we need to start hitting this maybe towards the legislative end to help us out, because we're having problems here, but they need to help. If it's not logical, they need to fix it. Just personal opinion. I'm through.
Okay.
Okay, so you get it back in compliance to 1A. Will it not start to degrade because it's not going anywhere? Was that the main issue of why it did?
Once we get it back in 1A, we can start watering the cemetery and filling back up the other impoundment pond and sending some water somewhere.
I would have a plan for where it can go. If it is selling it to the golf course, selling it to
we would have to put lines to the golf course.
The golf course would pay for all of that. We're running out of water. The golf course is about to dry up. Because our,
So they would pay for the infrastructure to.
yes, we just need water. If we need to dig a pipe from that retention pond up on the hill or that, I guess it's to that fire hydrant, because
Yeah,
it goes all the way there.
There's probably the end of the line right there.
So that's a half a mile. If we do that on our dime, absolutely. We have to have water to have a golf course.
Since y'all aren't part of the city, I think y'all might have to get a discharge permit.
The water or the golf course is in the city limits. U is the division line. They annexed that in like 15 years ago.
Actually, they wouldn't come off the fire hydrant, there's a stub at the well house. That come in.
At the pond. Why is that? Is that not the same system?
Well, they'd have to, the stub off that.
To be able to tie it to.
Doesn't come out of that pond.
The fire hydrant is off the main line.
If you want-
But it's on the reuse system, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you want to come out of the pond that's there now, you gotta pipe into that. And if
So you'd have an
well,
option.
We'd have to stub out. So if they want to tie you to, they tie you right there, and that'll come out of the pond.
Well, it's an option. I mean, I visit with Darwin Chenault. He's the superintendent there. And then maybe even get us on the public works meeting as the or as the country club to propose coming to buy it. I mean, we need available water.
Just say they won't come off the hydrant, because that comes from the tank. It would have to come off the.
Well, but does it not come from the same spot? Where's the reuse pond come from then?
The hydrant comes from the plant,
What plant?
the
The wastewater treatment.
Where's the pond water come from?
it comes from the plant, but it has a different valve that goes to the pond. And then has.
But my point is it's the same water. It's just
the same water, but it wouldn't come straight from the plant. They'd have to go further when they do their line,
So that it comes out of the pond.
because the hydrants.
If you want the water coming out of that pond right there.
well, I don't think we care where the water comes from. We just want water. So I mean, if it has to come from anywhere, we'll take it. I mean, we've already
The pond's full, the tank gets out of compliance, so you shut down.
Yeah, that's why. you-
so it's better to pull it from the pond to keep that water flowing.
My only concern there would be during season, is there gonna be a competition of how much water's coming out of that
So
pond?
that was another piece that, if I remember correctly from the conversation when I first started, was the pumps in that pond are also not big enough to do probably a huge amount. So we have to look at that too. That was, I think, was one of the improvements that they talked about as far as the reuse system. Besides, obviously making more lines throughout the city.
What pumps at the plant?
Yeah, the pumps in the pond,
At
right?
the pond.
Yeah,
At the pond.
At the pond that pump the water out to the reuse system. They were, I guess, undersized.
Though, from the impoundment pond, they're undersized, but they put different ones in, correct?
Yeah, but they're still undersized, because if you open all the complex at one time, it doesn't have enough pressure to do them all.
Source.
Can you not gravity feed that sucker?
No.
From that height going down that to the valley?
Gotta have that much.
I'm thinking, the wastewater and the effluent water is a whole different topic that we could, probably fill up an entire meeting with. It's pretty complex. So, and maybe we should have a meeting that deals strictly with that.
Absolutely.
Is there any other comments?
Only thing that I want, the wastewater treatment plant works, correct?
Correct.
Correct. It's the water
reuse
after
system.
it's produced,
Effluent water.
the effluent water
for
after
the
it's
reuse
produced,
system.
I'm making sure that this,
Yes, the effluent water for the reuse system is where we have the issue.
are we currently seeking a loan to do a major repair there?
No,
Okay, thank you. I've been hearing that. And I wanted to make sure that I was on the
no.
correct sheet of music before I made any comments to that. So,
The only loans that we are seeking are for Lime Street and in the well field.
thank you.
Did any of the staff have anything want to kick in here? Okay.
Just one other thing, when we get our dumpsters,
Yes,
not every house is gonna get one.
Yeah.
It's just the ones that are damaged,
gotcha.
so.
You once you're loud enough.
I got a question on that.
Once you're loud enough.
Some lid.
The old
Go
dumpsters,
back into
what are they gonna do with them? Are they gonna refurbish them,
Yes.
repair them, keep them?
Good.
Okay. You have anything to?
I've always got stuff, so just in there.
We're gonna have a meeting just for you, Preston.
Glad it wasn't me this time.
But I would like to say one thing, you know, as a citizen, I want to apologize to this city staff because y'all are placed in ridiculously hard situation. I know Ashley and Chris and Eric probably have some days they just feel like you're in a no-win situation. I know Mr. Moyer, when I first met him, I asked him, "What are you thinking?" You know, but we definitely appreciate your efforts and the responsibility that you're taking for taking on for the community. I know every time Steve Chavez walks out the door, he faces a giant challenge. It's like, let's see, we got equipment shortage, crew shortage, money shortage. What can I do for you today? You know, it's an impossible task. And Portales some way got itself into a situation that y'all kind of inherited. And that's a part I'm sorry you did. Every one of you stepped into your roles because of people that were leaving, and you stepped up your game, stepped up to the plate to help the community. And because you live here too, and you also want what's best. Chris and I have talked about this. He lives here too. He wants what's best for his family. And I always feel the need to make these disclaimers about when critical about city or city operations, that we're not suggesting at all that it's because of our workers. I'm not going to make that disclaimer anymore. Let's just have a understanding and an agreement. We can be critical of city and city decisions, and I want it known that we're not blaming the workers that wound up inheriting some of these messes. We very much appreciate it. And what we want to do is be here to help in any way we can. And I think one of those ways right now is to get more staff. I mean, so at any rate, that's all I had to say, other than everybody make sure they go vote. That's it. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, this meeting's over. Thank you.